My name is Chris Yee and I'm making a 3D puzzle platformer called Nectar. In the game you play as a potted sunflower with his bumblebee companion, using globs of nectar to grow plants and manipulate the world. I've been working on this game for about 6 months and I made a lot of progress. This video will talk about sound design and music. Now, sound design and music are probably my weakest areas of knowledge. I might end up hiring someone for music at some point, but I wanted to try it out myself first. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to have AAA level orchestral music. I don't know enough about music to do that kind of thing, but I do still think I can make effective music while keeping it pretty simple. So I've made one song so far, quote unquote one song. It's not really a song per se. It's randomized music. Kind of. I'll pull out my meta sound so you can see what I'm doing. This is what's happening with the song, so it looks a little complicated, I know, but if I play it, you can see the path that it takes to decide what to play. So I have 4 loops here. The first 2 are in one key and the second 2 are in a different key, and it just goes through them, and then when it reaches the end it goes back to the top. But it plays the bass note first and then it plays the melodic notes, and it does that for all of them. And these melodic notes are randomized. So I have the shuffle node, which takes all the notes from that key and chooses one of them to play, so it's randomized. And I kind of like this solution right now. It seems to work okay. It adds atmosphere. It adds the right mood that I'm looking for in this level in particular. I will need to make more of these just for different levels and different moods, because it's not going to be the same mood throughout the entire game. So I'll need to experiment with that, try to figure out how I can make each song fresh in its own way so it doesn't get boring. I might end up using samples or loops. We'll see. I do like the idea of music with layers that can build on itself as you get closer to a goal or something like that. I always think it's really cool when games are able to do that. It might be too difficult for me to implement, but we'll see. I haven't really played around with that at all, but I might try it out. So that's the music. That's pretty much all I've done with the music so far. It's basic, but it works. For sound effects, I've put in a lot of the basic sound effects, so things like footprints and just objects dropping and clicks and stuff like that. I downloaded these sound effects from a royalty-free audio library, and then I kind of just modified them for what I needed, adjusting the pitch or adjusting the speed. And I think what I've got in there so far works pretty well. For the footprints, I randomize the volume and the pitch every time the character steps. And in order to sync up the sound effects with the stepping of the character, I used animation notifiers. So just every time in the animation that the character's foot hits the ground, it triggers a flag that says, hey, play this sound effect. For object collision, so like if I'm grabbing an object and then I drop it, the object plays a little thud sound effect, and the volume is actually based on the velocity that the object is traveling. So if it's falling faster, then it'll be louder. Now, in the future, I might decide to try to record my own sound effects. I saw a video that kind of like walks you through it a little bit. But for now, these are working pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with them, so we'll see. For For ambient noises, I have the forest sound, which activates when you are inside of the Nectar aura. So when you're outside of Nectar, it feels desolate and empty, and then when you're inside the Nectar, it feels like you're in a living forest, which is the effect I'm going for. Also, the music when you're outside of the Nectar is muffled, and then when you go inside the Nectar, it becomes more clear. That way I can still have music in both settings, but it feels more vibrant when you're inside the Nectar. I have also added rain sounds, so as I've mentioned in some of my other videos, I plan on having a rain-based level where the rain deactivates your Nectar, so I wanted to get the sound of the rain right. So from that audio library I found a sample of rain, and I'm pretty happy with this one as well. And water sounds. When I'm swimming in water, it does a little splash whoosh sound. The problem I was having in the beginning was it was constantly triggering the sound every split second, and they would just overlap on top of each other over and over again. It was very overwhelming, and the way I solved this was I limited the increment that they can be played at. So if it plays once, then it can't play again for another, I forget what I set it to, but like half of a second or something. That way the water sound can only play every half of a second. I actually do this with a bunch of other sounds too, because I didn't know this before, but apparently most computers, most sound cards can only play up to 16 sounds at a time simultaneously. So if it reaches that limit, then a sound just won't play, or it'll cancel out another sound that maybe you don't want to be canceled out. So you can set these rules for the sound effects to give priority to other sounds or to limit sounds from playing when you don't necessarily need them to. So that was just an interesting thing I learned, and I set these rules for pretty much every sound that I've put into the game so far. Now for the Nectar activating, I debated what I wanted this sound to actually be for a while. I considered some sort of like energy orb sound when it expanded, and I actually had something like that in the early stages of the game, but I didn't like how it sounded. I don't know, maybe I could find a better one that would sound a little better, but what I ended up doing was playing into the music aspect of it. So when you activate Nectar, it actually plays a melodic tune that's within the same key as the music. So every time the key of the music changes, it sends that information to all the Nectar objects so that the Nectar knows what to play when you activate it. And then within those melodic notes that the Nectar plays, the notes that it plays are actually also randomized a little bit. It still plays in a sequential order, but whichever note it starts on is random. And I really like how this turned out. It makes the music feel more connected with the world, and I don't think it's too distracting. It kind of just adds to the magical nature of the Nectar. And then when the Nectar is deactivated, if it's dropped into water or something, I have this like deactivation sound where it's like a powering down sound that I think is pretty fitting. And I think those are pretty much all of the sounds and music that I've gotten in the game so far. There's still a lot of work to do. I still have to add in a few sounds for some things that I've made so far, like the laser has no sound. I was going to put a humming sound for the laser. Same with the generator. that doesn't have any noise right now. And then like I said before, I need to make some more music for different levels. So those are some things I'm going to be working on in the future. If you have any suggestions for what I should do with the music, leave a comment down below. And if you want to see what I end up doing with the sound effects and the music in the future, subscribe and hit the bell, and you'll be notified when I release another video. I also have a Steam page, so you can go over there and wishlist the game. And if you want to be part of the community, I have a Discord server. Thanks!